Hey y'all, it's your girl Tashondarenae. I'm back with another video. In today's video, I'm showing you how I make chicken and dressing. So if you would like to see how I do it my way, please stay tuned. So this is a super easy recipe, but it can go wrong. I've had dressing that was really wrong. I don't like it too wet and I don't like it dry. So I'm going to show you how I do it. All right, so to get started, we're going to prepare our chicken and stock. For this recipe, I'm using one whole chicken. If you don't have a whole chicken, you can use chicken pieces. Just make sure you use some dark meat as well. If you use all breast, it's going to be kind of dry and you won't have, your stock is not going to be as flavorful. So to my pot, I've added my chicken. I've added celery and onions. You can add some bell peppers if you like. I've seasoned it with black pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. I also used some Better Than Bouillon. Now, while I'm waiting on my chicken to get done, I'm going to go ahead and prepare and bake my cornbread. And for this recipe, I'm just using a boxed cornbread. This is the Miracle Maze Southern style cornbread. It is not sweet. You definitely don't want to use sweet cornbread for this recipe. Just go ahead and follow the box instructions and bake your cornbread. Now, while you're waiting on your cornbread to cook, you want to go ahead and dice up a small onion and some celery. Now, it's up to you as to how big or small you're going to dice up your veggies. I'm going to dice mine up pretty small. I don't like to bite down into big hunks of onions or celery when I'm eating my dressing. Be sure to include the leafy part of the celery as well. You get a lot of flavor from the leafy part. Now, over a medium heat, you want to go ahead and add some butter to a skillet, and you're going to saute your vegetables. Now, this part is very important. This is where your dressing can start to kind of go downhill. So you do not want to overcook the veggies at this point. You just want to cook them a few minutes just until they're starting to get translucent. You still want them to have kind of a crunch to them. The longer you cook them, the less flavor you're going to have. So this is what they should look like. And once they look like this, you want to go ahead and take them off of the heat. All right, so once your cornbread and your chicken are done, you want to go ahead and start adding your ingredients to a big bowl. I'm going to start with my cornbread, so I'm just going to crumble it up and then add it to the bowl. You want to make sure you're crumbling it really good, because if you don't, you're going to have those big pieces of cornbread in your dressing. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add my sauteed onions and celery. Then I'm going to add my Kroger brand chicken stuffing mix. If you don't have access to a Kroger, you can go ahead and add some chicken flavored stovetop. Now you want to add 1 can each of cream of chicken and cream of celery. Now I'm going to add some seasonings. I'm going to start with some poultry season, and I'm really not going to give a measurement for that. You're going to use it to taste. So I'm going to first start out with about a teaspoon of poultry seasoning. And even though I know poultry seasoning has sage in it, it's not enough for me. So I'm going to go ahead and add some additional sage. Now I'm going to add some milk, and I'm using evaporated milk, and I'm going to start adding my broth. I'm using the broth that I just made when I boiled my chicken And I have already strained the broth. I'm going to start out with just a couple cups of the broth because this is the next part that can make that dressing go good or it can go bad. Although I'm going to add more broth, you don't want to add all of your broth at one time because once you've added too much, there's really nothing you can do about it other than add some more cornbread, and that's just doing too much. So go ahead and just start with a small amount first and then work your way up to get the texture that you desire. And of course, as always, be sure to check out the description box for the list of ingredients and exact measurements of everything I used. Okay, so once your dressing starts to look about like this, you want to go ahead and stop. Don't add any more liquid. Now you just want to go ahead and taste it and adjust your seasonings if needed. This is when you can decide whether you want to go ahead and add some salt or not. You may not need any salt. It just depends on how salty your stock actually is. So this is an up close look at the texture before adding the chicken. So I went ahead and pulled the chicken apart. I'm not going to use the entire chicken. I'm only using about half of it. And I am using the dark and the white meat. You don't have to leave your chicken pieces as big as I'm leaving mine. You can even shred yours if you would like. I just like to have bigger pieces of chicken in my dressing. Once you add your chicken, you may need to add a little more stock. This right here is the texture that you're going for. It pretty much looks like slop, but once it bakes up, it just bakes up perfectly. It's not too wet, it's not too dry. So now you want to make sure your oven is preheated to 375 degrees. You want to go ahead and butter up whatever dish you're going to use to bake your chicken and dressing. I'm going to be using my favorite, my 14-inch cast iron skillet. Once you have your dish buttered up, you're going to go ahead and add your dressing to the dish. And on top of the dressing, you're going to add a couple tablespoons of butter. Okay, you're going to bake your dressing anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes. You really don't want to go over those 40 minutes because your dressing may dry out. This is what it should look like once it comes out of the oven. And so now I just want to show you how to quickly make some gravy using your leftover broth. To make the gravy, you're going to make a slurry. So I'm going to use flour. If you prefer to use cornstarch, that is fine as well. Either will do the job. So what I'm going to do is mix the water and flour together. While I'm doing that, I'm bringing the leftover broth to a boil. Once the broth is boiling and the flour and water is mixed together really well, I'm just going to slowly whisk the mixture into the broth. And I'm going to let that cook or let that boil until it is to the thickness that I desire. And then all you have to do is season it. So I'm adding just a few pinches of salt and black pepper, and that is it. My gravy is done. So that is my recipe for chicken and dressing. This is what it looks like once it's all done with the gravy on it. And all that's left to do is add some cranberry sauce. And today I used the canned jellied cranberry sauce. Sometimes I do make my own, and I have a recipe on my channel for homemade cranberry sauce. I'll be sure to leave the link for that below in the description box. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and I definitely hope you'll give this recipe a try. If you have not already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.